Do you know the irony of family? The people who should understand you best are sometimes the ones who make you doubt yourself the most. It sounds heartbreaking, but let's be honest. How many times have you accepted being hurt just because you told yourself they're family after all? How many times have you swallowed your anger for fear of being called unfilial, ungrateful, or selfish? And how many times have you convinced yourself that if you tried a little harder, endured a little more, and sacrificed a little more, things would get better? Unfortunately, life doesn't always work that way, because there's a hard truth to accept. Same blood doesn't equate to the same level of maturity. Sharing the same roof doesn't mean you know how to love each other. The funny thing is, many people can easily set boundaries with strangers, but are completely powerless when faced with their own family. A colleague speaks disrespectfully, and you can react. If an acquaintance mistreats you, you can keep your distance. But when it's a parent, sibling, or relative, things suddenly become complicated. Suddenly, you feel responsible for enduring it. Suddenly, you think that if you leave, you'll be the one at fault. And that very feeling of guilt becomes an invisible thread holding you back in relationships that leave you increasingly exhausted. Psychology calls this the bond of obligation. You don't stay for happiness. You stay because you feel obligated to stay. Those two things sound similar, but they're completely different. Someone who stays out of love will find peace. Someone who stays out of obligation will often only feel tired. And sadly, many people don't realize the difference until they lose themselves. There's a type of person who exists in many families. They always make you feel like you're never good enough. If you achieve something, they say it's just luck. You make a small mistake, and they bring it up for years, as if it were the greatest legacy you've left to your family. You try to explain, and they say you're arguing. You stay silent, and they say you're disrespectful. You succeed, and they say you've changed. You fail, and they say they knew it all along. Many people might laugh at this, but it's the kind of humor that makes you want to sigh afterward. The most dangerous thing isn't the criticism itself. The danger is that after years, you start saying the same things to yourself. Every time you prepare to try something new, that familiar voice in your head says, you can't do it. Every time you make a mistake, you conclude that you're completely useless. By then, the person who hurt you is no longer standing in front of you. They've moved into your thoughts. Stoic people understand that we can't choose where we're born, but we can choose how we live. Marcus Aurelius grew up amidst power, intrigue, and deeply political relationships. He couldn't change the people around him, but he always reminded himself that his dignity shouldn't depend on the behavior of others. That's a lesson many people need to hear. You can't force someone to be kind just because they share your last name, nor can you heal wounds they don't want to acknowledge. This is the biggest mistake many people make. They spend decades trying to be the perfect child, the perfect sibling, or the perfect grandchild just to gain a little recognition. They think that if they try a little harder, they'll eventually be loved the way they want. But some people don't not love you. They just don't know how to love in a healthy way. And if you keep waiting for them to change before allowing yourself peace, you might have to wait a very long time. That's why the first step in dealing with a toxic family isn't to change them. It's to stop entrusting your entire self-worth to them. Because the moment you let their praise determine your happiness and their criticism determine your worth, you've inadvertently given them more power over your life than anyone should have. That's also when you need to understand something that many people take decades to accept. Setting boundaries with family isn't betraying them. It's protecting your own mental health. There's a huge difference between filial piety and blind self-sacrifice. Filial piety strengthens relationships. Unrestricted self-sacrifice, on the other hand, often exhausts one person while the others take it for granted. Interestingly, when you start saying no, some people will react very strongly. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're ungrateful. They'll bring up everything they've ever done for you as if reading a years-long emotional statement. It sounds scary, but if you calmly observe, you'll realize something. Those who truly love you may not like your new boundaries immediately, but eventually they will learn to respect them. Conversely, those who are only used to benefiting from your constant concessions will be your most vehement opponents. There's a paradox worth contemplating. Many people are so afraid of disappointing their families that they accept disappointing themselves every day. They choose jobs they don't love just to please others. They live according to expectations that aren't their own. They give up their dreams, their peace, even their self-respect, just for a few rare compliments. But ironically, no matter how hard they try, they can't please everyone, because when you meet one expectation, another will always appear. It's like trying to fill a bottomless barrel. The harder you try, the more exhausted you become. Stoic people see things differently. They understand that they don't have the right to control other people's thoughts, even if that person is family. What they can control is how they react. They don't argue to win every family meal. They didn't try to change the beliefs of those who refuse to listen. They chose calm over endless battles with predetermined outcomes. This doesn't mean you have to cut off all relationships. Not every family needs distance, and not every conflict is toxic. But if a relationship constantly makes you feel worthless, constantly leaves you living in guilt, anxiety, or fear, then perhaps what needs to change isn't how you endure it more. Perhaps what needs to change is how you allow others into your life. One thing many people only realize as adults is that family isn't just made up of blood. Family is also made up of respect, security, and genuine love. There are people who aren't related by blood, but always make you feel heard. And there are relatives who, every time you meet them, take days to recover. Accepting that truth doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you more honest with yourself. Ultimately, the best way to deal with a toxic family isn't to retaliate with anger or try to prove yourself right. It's to live a life peaceful enough that criticism no longer defines your worth, strong enough not to need anyone's validation, and wise enough to understand that loving others never means giving up on yourself. Because the first person you have a responsibility to protect isn't your family's reputation nor their expectations, but your own mental health and character. And perhaps the most thought-provoking question is, if a stranger treated you the way some of your relatives are treating you today, would you stay just because of the word family?